The single most dangerous act of this generation is not violence, it is not deceit, it is exposure. Every day, millions hand over their power, one photograph at a time, believing they are sharing moments, when in truth, they are surrendering ownership of themselves. You call it expression, I call it surveillance with a smile. You have been taught that to be seen is to exist, but existence, once witnessed by too many eyes, becomes property of the crowd, and property, once claimed, cannot be free. Every image you post is not a reflection, it is an offering, a sacrifice to the altar of attention. The moment you upload your face, you lose control over what that face means, where it travels, what it whispers when you are asleep. Your likeness becomes a wandering ghost, tagged, copied, stored, sold, and observed by forces you will never meet. You think you own your account, but the truth is your account owns you. You tell yourself it's harmless. Just a photo, just a moment. But you have forgotten how civilizations fall, not with swords, but with records. The empires of the future will not conquer with armies, but with archives. Every smile you've shown, every filter you've used, every angle you've chosen becomes data. A psychological fingerprint that reveals your vanity, your insecurity, your need to be adored. The enemy no longer needs to interrogate you. Your face has already confessed. The eyes that scan your photos see more than your expression. They read your weakness, your habits, your desires. In the past, spies risked their lives to gather intelligence. Now, you volunteer it with perfect lighting and hashtags. Do you feel it? That quiet hunger before you post? The pulse of anticipation as you wait for approval? It's not art you're sharing, it's bait. Every like you receive is a drip of validation meant to keep you obedient. You think you're free because you can choose what to show. But the truth is, you only show what you hope will be loved. You have been conditioned to equate exposure with worth. The modern world has convinced you that privacy is shame, that mystery is loneliness. Yet, power has always belonged to the unseen. Kings never parade their hearts before the crowd. Strategists never reveal their plans. Lovers never expose the sacred moments they wish to last. Only the desperate display everything, mistaking attention for importance. You scroll through the endless faces, each one begging silently, see me, approve me, validate me. They don't post because they are proud. They post because they are terrified of being forgotten. They fear invisibility more than manipulation. They fear being nobody more than being controlled. But here is the truth Machiavelli knew. The one who needs to be seen is already conquered. He has placed his ego in the hands of strangers, and those hands will never stop taking. Attention does not feed you, it drains you. Every image you post is a thread pulled from your soul until one day you find that there is nothing left to hide, and therefore nothing left to protect. You are told that social media is connection, but real connection requires vulnerability, not exposure. Vulnerability happens in silence, in trust, in the unseen spaces between words. Exposure happens before a crowd. You believe you're building relationships through visibility, but what you're really building is a mirror maze, each reflection more distorted than the last. The more you show, the less real you become. Each post is a performance, each smile rehearsed, each caption edited until it sounds human enough to deceive. The tragedy is not that you are performing, it's that you no longer know where the performance ends. When every photo is a pose, how can you remember who you were before the camera existed? Do you know what happens to a man who is watched too long? He begins to live for the watchers. His movements become deliberate, his words self-conscious, his emotions filtered for effect. Over time, he no longer acts, he reacts. The gaze of others becomes his compass. That is what you have become, a reflection of reflection, a prisoner of invisible spectators. You think you have followers, but in truth, you are the one following the whims of algorithms, the trends of the hour, the fickle taste of the mob. Your photos are not seen by people who care. They are consumed by systems that calculate. You are not admired, you are measured. Look at your gallery. Do you see memories, or do you see evidence? Every image is a record of your emotional state. When you felt lonely, when you needed praise, when you disguised despair as confidence. Those who study you, employers, partners, enemies, can read these signs like a book. You gave them the script, and now they control the ending. A simple smile in one photo tells them more than you think. Tilt your head slightly, and they know submission. Raise your chin, and they see defiance. Every pose you strike betrays an instinct. and every instinct can be manipulated. You think your face belongs to you, but your face is already a public document. The worst part is not that they watch you. It's that you've learned to love being watched. You crave it. You depend on it. You've made surveillance your source of comfort. You've mistaken visibility for safety, when in truth, it is the ultimate exposure of weakness. What began as self-expression has become self-erasure. The moment you post, you cease to exist in private. You become a product, one that cannot control who buys, who edits, who replicates. The illusion of innocence protects no one. It blinds you to the machinery of exploitation, grinding quietly behind every upload. You cannot plead ignorance when the cage was built with your own hands. You think you're preserving memories, but the truth is, you're manufacturing evidence. You're creating a history that others can use to predict you, manipulate you, even destroy you. The world no longer needs to ask who you are, it only needs to scroll. Your smile, your room, your shadow, all catalogued, time-stamped, analyzed. You've given away what your ancestors would have guarded with their lives, the mystery of their face, and you call it freedom. But tell me what freedom remains for the man whose every gesture is archived, whose every moment is watched, whose every secret is now a caption beneath a filtered image. Your face is not yours anymore. It belongs to the system that studies it, the strangers who save it, the algorithms that feed it to the machine. You have become an unpaid actor in a film you did not agree to star in. Every time you smile for the camera, you give it more material. Every blink, every tilt, every imperfection becomes a data point, a signal for how you think, how you feel, how you break. And though you post for pleasure, you are working. You are feeding an empire that thrives on your willingness to reveal yourself. You believe your face has no price, but it has value. You just never asked who is profiting from it. The moment your photo leaves your hands, it becomes property of those who trade in human patterns. They call it data collection. I call it extraction of identity. The currency of the new world is not gold, not oil, not even information. It is faces. Faces that can be tracked, predicted, monetized, and copied. Your expressions, your gestures, your micro-reactions, all harvested to teach machines what it means to be human. The more images you post, the more your digital twin evolves. A shadow version of you that companies, governments, and hidden powers can analyze. They can test how you'd react to fear, to love, to loss. They can model your future, predict your choices, and sell those predictions to the highest bidder. You think this is science fiction. It is the quiet foundation of control. A world where your smile can unlock a phone, but also unlock your mind. Your phone camera is not just a lens, it is a scanner of your soul. Every selfie you take teaches it to recognize you faster, deeper, more intimately than any friend ever could. Soon it knows your face better than you do. It can spot stress before you feel it, deception before you admit it, attraction before you act on it. And this knowledge does not stay with you. It is shared, sold, multiplied. The corporations that own your platform no longer need to ask permission to study you. You gave it freely when you pressed accept all. You thought you were joining a network. What you joined was a marketplace of your own reflection. Do you understand what it means to have your face turned into currency? It means you can be traded without knowing it. It means your existence fuels someone else's profit. The smile that once belonged to your memory now feeds a system designed to keep you compliant. When you look into your camera, it looks back with hunger. You see yourself, it sees opportunity. Behind every platform is a marketplace of faces, a vast silent economy of identity, where your image is just another stock to be bought, analyzed, and sold. The corporations that claim to connect you have found a more efficient form of slavery, one where the slaves volunteer their chains. You think this is paranoia, but watch how the world bends around your data. You mention a trip, and the advertisements appear. You post a meal, and your preferences are mapped. You smile in a photo, and the machine tags your emotion, predicting your next action with frightening accuracy. This is not coincidence. It is design. Your every visible act becomes input for something that learns from you faster than you can learn about it. You are not the user anymore, you are the product. And the product never has privacy. The product never has power. The product cannot rebel because it doesn't know it's being sold. Governments learned early what corporations perfected. A population addicted to being seen is a population that polices itself. You've made their work easy. No spy needs to follow you when you document your own life. No interrogator needs to threaten you when your emotions are on display. You post your location, your relationships, your routines. Every habit that once required investigation is now delivered voluntarily. You have become your own informant, your own surveillance system. You tell yourself you have nothing to hide, but that's exactly what makes you dangerous. A compliant citizen who believes exposure equals honesty. A ruler's dream. Once, anonymity was power. Kings wore masks to disguise their thoughts. Strategists cloaked their movements in silence. The powerful understood that mystery was the first defense against manipulation. Now, the masses compete to reveal everything first, to prove relevance through exposure. You have inverted the natural order. The unseen used to rule the visible. Now the visible beg for relevance while the unseen watch in silence. The powerful of this age are those who have erased their faces from the grid, those who cannot be scanned, tagged, or replicated. Their invisibility is not weakness, it is dominance, because what cannot be captured cannot be controlled. You think your photos show who you are, but they only show what you've been trained to reveal. Your expression is no longer authentic, it's algorithmic. You smile the way your feed expects you to. You angle your face based on what received likes before. You have internalized the code. You have become predictable, and predictability is submission. The algorithm has tamed your instincts. You now perform for it without knowing, and the tragedy is not that you're being watched. It's that you've stopped resisting. You have accepted the trade, your soul for visibility, your mystery for applause. When they said the eyes are windows to the soul, they did not imagine a world where those windows would be owned by corporations. Yet here we are. Your gaze has become property, your smile a brand asset. You thought you were immortalizing moments, but what you've really done is multiply your vulnerabilities across servers that never forget. Every copy of your face is a potential mask for someone else to wear, a weapon, a disguise, a tool for manipulation. The technology that studies you can now become you. And when that happens, who will the world believe is real, you or the image that moves without your permission? You believe you're chasing expression, but what you're chasing is approval. You crave the echo of recognition, that fleeting pulse of validation that feels like warmth and tastes like meaning. That is how they trap you. The seduction of attention is not loud, it is silent, intoxicating, invisible. It creeps in like a whisper that tells you, you matter when they see you. And so you begin to build your worth from the eyes of others. You feed them pieces of yourself in exchange for reassurance, and when the crowd claps, you feel alive. But here lies the paradox. The more they see of you, the less of you remains. You dilute your essence with every post, until you become a ghost sustained by the attention you need to survive. The architecture of social media was not built for communication, it was built for dependency. Its design is surgical. Every notification a needle, every like a drop of dopamine. You are conditioned to return for the next fix, to seek the next high of relevance. The pleasure is temporary, but the hunger is permanent. They engineered it that way. Your attention is the most profitable addiction on earth, and they've turned your self-worth into the supply chain. The tragedy is not that you are addicted, it's that you call it connection. You think you are sharing, but you are performing. You think you are connecting, but you are competing. And in that competition, you lose something that cannot be retrieved, your sense of self that existed before applause. Once, validation came from achievement, from skill, mastery, creation. Now, it comes from reaction. The measure of your life has been reduced to hearts, comments, and followers, all symbols with no substance. This is not affirmation, it is enslavement. The modern man bows not before kings, but before algorithms. He wakes up each day to check whether the invisible crowd has approved his existence, and when they don't, he feels a quiet death. When they do, he feels a brief illusion of resurrection. But both feelings are traps. They anchor your emotions to something you cannot control. They make you predictable, and the predictable man is powerless, because his mood can be manipulated by the push of a button. Do you realize how easily your emotions are harvested? You think you are scrolling freely, but every gesture you make, how long you look, where you pause, what you skip, teaches the machine what triggers you. It learns the rhythm of your weakness. The more you chase validation, the more the system studies how to make you chase harder. You are not just giving away your data, you are teaching your captor how to tighten the chains. This is not social media, it is social conditioning. They've made you mistake a cage for a stage. You stand there smiling, applauded, adored, not realizing you're performing for your own captors. And the worst part is this: you asked for it, you begged for it. You didn't need to be forced, you volunteered, you begged to be seen, even if it meant being controlled. You call it empowerment, posting, expressing, branding, but real power never advertises itself. Real power hides, observes, and strikes only when necessary. But you've given it away, all of it, for the cheap thrill of acknowledgement. They know this, they designed this. They turned the human desire for connection into a global experiment in obedience. You will obey what gives you attention. You will silence what threatens it. You will mold your personality to maintain it. That is not connection, that is possession. You wonder why your mind feels scattered, your peace short-lived, your confidence fragile. It's because you've outsourced your self-esteem to an audience that does not care. You have placed your soul on the auction block, waiting for strangers to bid with likes. Some will praise you, some will ignore you, and others will quietly envy you. But none of it fills you. Attention never satisfies. It only enlarges the void. You post to feel alive, but the feeling fades, and you post again. The loop repeats until you can no longer tell whether you're sharing because you want to or because you need to. That's how addiction works. It disguises dependence as choice. Even your silence is no longer yours. The moment you stop posting, you feel irrelevant, forgotten. You mistake quiet for death, when in truth, quiet is rebirth. But you cannot endure it anymore. You are addicted to exposure. You believe that if you vanish from the feed, you vanish from existence itself. They have replaced your reflection in the mirror with one that flickers on a screen, demanding you perform just to keep it alive. Every selfie, every caption, every story is not documentation, it is proof of life. And when proof becomes necessary, identity becomes an illusion. The machine does not care who you are, only that you never stop feeding it. It rewards consistency, not authenticity. It favors performance, not truth. It measures engagement, not emotion. The more you adapt to please it, the further you drift from yourself. You start thinking in captions, living in angles, and editing your reality to fit the aesthetic of belonging. You don't post to express anymore, you post to survive. Because to stop would mean facing the silence you've been running from, the silence that would remind you how much of your soul you've traded for recognition. You've mistaken the crowd's applause for power. But applause is not power, it's permission. It means you've pleased them. And pleasing the crowd is the death of individuality. When they cheer, you feel strong. When they turn away, you crumble. You've become a hostage of perception, a slave to the rhythm of attention. The tragedy is not that they see you, it's that you can no longer see yourself without them. And every time you reach for your phone, every time you post another piece of your image, you confirm the truth that you've denied for too long. You are no longer living for yourself. You are living for their gaze. Tell me, if the applause stopped today, if every follower vanished and no one watched you anymore, would you still know who you are, or would you disappear with them? The predators do not need to find you anymore. You deliver yourself to them. You decorate your own cage with filters and smiles and captions about freedom. You tell the world where you are, what you wear, who you love, when you're vulnerable, when you're angry, when you're alone. To the manipulator, you are an open book, and every post you make is a confession. The predators of this new age don't hunt in darkness. They hunt in daylight, camouflaged as followers, admirers, strangers who just happen to notice. They do not stalk through forests, they scroll through feeds. Their weapon is knowledge, and you hand it to them freely. When you post your face, your mood, your surroundings, you are writing your own psychological profile. You think it's harmless, just you being authentic. But to a skilled observer, every detail reveals something you can't see about yourself. The background of your room shows your class. The objects on your desk show your habits. The tension in your jaw shows your stress. Your eyes betray what you fear. The way you frame yourself tells them what you wish to hide. They learn what compliments make you glow, what silence makes you doubt, what kind of attention you crave most. A manipulator doesn't need to ask questions anymore. Your feed has already answered them all. And from this knowledge, they craft control. Some use it for profit, to sell you, to lure you, to predict you. Others use it for power, to play with your emotions like strings on an instrument. They can mirror your values, mimic your beliefs, feign intimacy, because they have studied your every post. You'll call them soulmates, friends, mentors. They'll call you target. This is the new form of warfare, not with weapons, but with information. You are not being attacked, you are being understood. And once they understand you, you are finished. Because a man who can be predicted can be controlled, and a man who can be controlled no longer needs to be conquered. In older times, a spy needed disguise, persuasion, patience. Now the world's spies don't even have to leave their desks. They infiltrate through your likes, your photos, your captions. Each time you post, the enemy updates your dossier. They know when you're asleep, when you're away, when you're distracted. They can imitate your writing style, copy your face, even recreate your voice. Deepfakes, phishing, scams, all powered by the data you volunteered. You think you're too unimportant to be noticed, but that's exactly what they count on. Everyone thinks they're invisible until they aren't. The moment you post, you are visible to someone whose intentions you'll never see. The predators are not always human. The most efficient hunters now are algorithms, cold, tireless, and perfect. They learn how to keep you hooked, how to make you angry, how to make you buy, how to make you confess more. They can trigger jealousy by showing you beauty. They can trigger insecurity by showing you success. They can push despair by showing you happiness you'll never have. They have mapped the emotional geography of the human mind, and you have given them the blueprint. The algorithm doesn't hate you, it doesn't love you either. It just feeds on what makes you react. To it, your suffering is engagement. Your vulnerability is revenue. The predator smiles in code. You imagine you're protected because you use privacy settings, because you share only with friends. But privacy online is like glass in a storm, fragile, temporary, and easily shattered. The predators don't need to break in. They wait for you to open the door. They wait for you to post that one photo that reveals too much, that one caption that says what you really feel, and then they act. They don't need to threaten, they simply suggest. They don't need to steal, they persuade you to give. The world's most dangerous hunters no longer wear masks, they wear charm. They understand that manipulation feels better than violence. The fool resists pain, but he welcomes pleasure. And so the hunter arrives disguised as a friend, a fan, a savior, and the prey smiles. You are not paranoid, you are watched. Not by a single pair of eyes, but by millions of invisible ones. Cameras, trackers, data brokers, governments, bots, an endless swarm of gazes feeding on your visibility. They don't need to harm you to own you. They simply need to know you better than you know yourself. They build a psychological mirror so detailed that when they present it to you, you'll mistake it for reality. You'll start acting the way they expect you to. You'll become predictable, obedient, safe. They don't just manipulate your choices, they reshape your identity. The predators have found a way to make you participate in your own domestication. And so you scroll, unaware that you've turned your mind into open terrain. You tell yourself you're connecting with the world, but the world is mapping you. You think you're sharing your light, but you're exposing your coordinates. You think your photos are moments of self-expression, but they are signals to unseen players who now know exactly where to strike. And when they do, when the wrong hands hold your image, your habits, your history, there will be no undoing it. You will realize too late that privacy cannot be reclaimed once it is surrendered. What you gave for free will cost you everything to take back. Tell me, when the world knows your face, your thoughts, your fears, your routines, what part of you is still unknown enough to be safe? You've been living inside a reflection for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be real. The mirror has replaced the man. Each time you post, you polish that reflection, crafting it a little more perfectly, a little more beautifully, until it becomes something greater than you and infinitely more fragile. You have built a second self, made entirely of images, angles, and illusions. You feed it daily, protect it fiercely, and judge yourself against it. This is not self-expression, it is self-replacement. You no longer live to experience life, you live to document it. You reach for your phone before your own thoughts. You smile not because you feel joy, but because you've learned how joy looks when captured. You are no longer living moments, you are performing them. This is the mirror trap, the place where the image you create begins to imprison the man who created it. Every post becomes a contract you sign with your audience. You must now live up to the version of yourself that they expect. You cannot disappoint them. You cannot evolve beyond them. So you freeze. You maintain the illusion at all costs. You filter your flaws, mute your pain, rehearse your authenticity, and the world applauds the image, never realizing the man inside it is suffocating. The mirror loves you most when you are still, when you no longer change. But what is a man who cannot change? He is a statue. He is admired, but dead. Do you remember the first time you looked at your reflection and didn't recognize yourself? That quiet unease that something had shifted. It wasn't your face. It was the distance between who you are and who you appear to be. That distance widens with every photo. You begin to live for angles, lighting, impressions. You check your reflection not to know yourself, but to confirm that you still exist in the eyes of others. The mirror becomes the judge, and you the defendant. You begin to chase a perfection that doesn't exist off-screen, punishing yourself for failing to look like your own illusion. That is the cruel genius of visibility. It teaches you to envy yourself. Your reflection is not neutral. It demands maintenance. It demands that you keep feeding it more versions, more proofs, more updates. The digital world doesn't care about your life. It only cares about your consistency. If you disappear, it forgets you. So you keep posting, keep smiling, keep producing the illusion of existence. The reflection becomes your prison guard, whispering in your mind, "Don't stop, they'll forget you." You obey because the silence feels unbearable. You believe that if you are unseen, you are unloved. But love built on exposure is not love. It is dependency disguised as relevance. And relevance fades faster than memory. The mirror doesn't only change how you see yourself. It changes how others see you. People no longer meet you. They meet the version you've sculpted. They speak to your reflection, not your soul. And so even in a crowded room, you feel unseen. You have given the world an image so polished that no one dares look beyond it. They love your surface and fear your truth. But when the reflection becomes too perfect, it loses warmth. When you become your own advertisement, you cease to be a human being. You become a brand. And brands do not bleed. They do not cry. They do not grow. They exist to sell a story that never ends, even when the person behind it is exhausted. The mirror trap turns every act of self-expression into self-surveillance. You begin to edit your behavior in real time, anticipating how it might look if recorded. Even your private moments are no longer private. They exist under the shadow of potential exposure. The phone in your pocket has become your judge, your audience, your God. You perform for it without knowing. You live through it without realizing. And when it captures you, it captures not just your image, but your innocence. You cannot be spontaneous under constant observation. You cannot be genuine while imagining how it will appear later. The reflection poisons the moment before it even happens. The irony is that you created the mirror to be free. You wanted to show yourself to the world, but in doing so, you trapped yourself inside a version of you that cannot breathe. Every image becomes a commandment. Be this, look like this, act like this. You think you're curating, but you're obeying. You think you're expressing, but you're repeating. The image rules the man, and the man submits. The mirror has won. It doesn't need to lie. It just needs you to believe that without it, you're invisible. That is how the illusion sustains itself. You live not as who you are, but as who you think you must appear to be. So now, look closely at your reflection. Not the one on your screen, but the one inside you. Ask yourself, if the mirror shattered tonight, if every photo disappeared, every profile erased, every memory unposted, would you still recognize the person staring back? Or has he already been replaced by his own reflection? You've been told that social media is a game of connection, but what you were never told is that every connection is also a weapon. Every photo, every caption, every glimpse into your private life becomes a fragment of ammunition waiting to be used. We live in an age where everyone is a hunter pretending to be a friend. They follow you not because they care, but because they're collecting data, weaknesses, habits, patterns, triggers. They scroll through your gallery, the way predators once tracked footprints in the mud. They read your tone. They memorize your timing. They notice who you love, what you fear, and where your pride hides. And when the time comes, they strike, not with force, but with precision. You think rivalry begins with confrontation, but in this world, it begins with observation. Your enemies don't need to attack you directly. They simply need to know you. Every smile you post gives them a window into your confidence. Every moment of vulnerability tells them when you're most fragile. They learn when to approach, when to vanish, when to provoke. They understand your rhythm before you understand theirs. The digital battlefield has no armies, only watchers and the watched are always losing. Because every truth you reveal about yourself becomes a tool for someone else's strategy. The modern hunt doesn't look like warfare, it looks like curiosity. They'll scroll quietly through your life, disguised as admirers. They'll note the dates of your joy and the tone of your sadness. They'll sense when your confidence dips, when your routine breaks. They'll learn what you love enough to defend and what you fear enough to hide. In this world, the one who knows your habits owns your future. A predator doesn't need to wound you. He only needs to know when you are most likely to wound yourself. And you willingly tell him everything he needs to know, with filters, with captions, with smiles that give away too much. They say keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but now it's your enemies who keep you close on their screens, in their tabs, in their minds. They know your every move because you've trained them to. You've made their job effortless. You've become predictable. They don't need to imagine your next step. You've already posted it. And when they move against you, it will feel natural, justified, almost invisible. They won't need to humiliate you in public. They'll do it quietly, by shaping how others see you. A comment here, a comparison there. They'll turn your own image into the rope that strangles your reputation. This is the social hunt, the silent economy of envy and imitation. People don't just follow to support, they follow to measure. They study your victories not to learn, but to calculate. They're not inspired, they're preparing. The same people who cheer for you will one day replay your photos to prove you've fallen. Every public success becomes a target, every display of joy a challenge. You're not sharing your life, you're declaring your vulnerabilities. The more you show, the more they gather. The more they gather, the less power you hold. The hunted never notices the hunt until it's too late. Even those who mean no harm still take from you. Curiosity consumes integrity. The people who scroll through your world will begin to compare their lives to yours. Their envy becomes resentment. Their admiration turns to quiet contempt. They'll never tell you, but they'll wait for the day your mask cracks, because nothing brings people together like the downfall of someone they envied. They'll celebrate your failures in silence, disguised as concern. They'll tell you they miss the old you, when in truth, they just miss when you were beneath them. That's the hidden cost of visibility. To be known is to be resented. To be admired is to be silently despised. And yet, you keep feeding them. You post, thinking you're in control, but every upload gives the crowd a little more of your essence. You are building a weapon they will one day use against you. They will mock the same expressions they once praised. They will turn your words into hypocrisy when you change. They will frame your growth as betrayal. You will think they misunderstood you, but they didn't. They simply outgrew the illusion you built for them. You made yourself public, and the public will always consume what it can reach. That is its nature. Once you let them in, you can never close the door. You believe your story belongs to you, but the moment it's seen, it belongs to everyone who interprets it. You can't control what they see. You can only control what you show. But showing is surrender. The crowd doesn't seek truth, it seeks weakness. They don't care about your depth, only about your cracks. Because cracks make them feel safe, make them feel human, make them feel superior. The social hunt is not about taking your life, it's about stealing your narrative. You post to feel seen, they watch to feel powerful. They take from you the one thing no enemy should ever have, understanding. So ask yourself if your rivals already know your fears, your pleasures, your flaws, and your breaking points. What fight do you think you still have left to win? Every photo you post is not a memory, it is evidence. Evidence that you existed, that you were somewhere, that you felt something, and in this age, evidence is eternal. You think the past fades, but the internet does not forget. What you post today will outlive you. It will remain when your voice is gone, when your opinions have changed, when your life has evolved. It will linger in databases, backups, servers, and clouds, copied 1,000 times across machines you will never see. You think deletion means disappearance, but deletion is theater. Nothing you upload is ever truly gone. The system remembers, the archive listens, and the ghosts of your old selves are never silent. You've built a timeline, a shrine, a diary of your existence, and handed it to a machine that cannot die. You tell yourself it's harmless, that one day your grandchildren will scroll through and see your youth. But the truth is darker. Those images will not belong to your blood. They will belong to whoever owns the network. You have turned your history into property for strangers to mine, analyze, and profit from. Every expression you made, every moment of joy or grief, is stored as data points in a silent archive designed not for memory, but for manipulation. You are not preserving your life. You are feeding the digital museum of human predictability. You might think, what could they possibly do with my photos? But ask yourself, how much can someone learn from a single image? They can read your facial micro-expressions, decode your emotions, detect your mood, guess your age, your income, your level of confidence, even your health. Artificial intelligence can identify patterns in your eyes, the texture of your skin, the tilt of your head. It knows when you're lying, when you're tired, when you're afraid. It sees what you cannot hide, the truth behind your presentation. And the moment it learns you, it can anticipate you. You are not just seen, you are studied. You are not remembered, you are recorded. The silent archive doesn't need your permission. It collects in the background, with precision and patience. Your tagged locations, your timestamps, your expressions, all assembled into a permanent portrait of your soul. Governments use it for surveillance, corporations for prediction, employers for profiling, advertisers for persuasion. Every photo is a thread in a net that tightens with time. You think you're anonymous in the crowd, but the machine knows you by heart. It recognizes you from angles you've never seen, from lighting you've forgotten, from patterns invisible to your own eyes. And it knows where you'll be next, because it has already mapped the past you've surrendered. This is the true cost of exposure, not embarrassment, but permanence. You have given the world a version of yourself that cannot age, cannot evolve, cannot repent. That version will remain, frozen in pixels, long after you've grown wiser, and when you try to change, the world will not allow it. The archive will remind them who you used to be. They will scroll through your past as if it's still your present. They will hold you hostage to the fragments of identity you've outgrown. The digital self never dies, it haunts you. It resurrects at job interviews, in relationships, in scandals, in whispers. It becomes your shadow, loyal only to those who wish to expose you. Even when you vanish, the archive remains. A copy of your image will live somewhere, on a stranger's drive, on a company's server, in an algorithm's dataset. It will be replicated endlessly, perhaps used in ways you never imagined, to test software, to train surveillance systems, to feed machines that learn from your face while you sleep. You will become part of a dataset that shapes the future, without consent, without credit, without control. The world will move forward using the pieces of you that you gave away for free. You will have built the empire that enslaves you, pixel by pixel, smile by smile. And the silence of the archive is what makes it terrifying. You never hear it. You never feel it. You never see it taking. It collects in the background like dust, invisible, harmless, until it buries everything. Decades from now, your images will still be circulating, your face still recognized, your moments still retrievable. The archive will know you better than any grave ever could. It will hold your ghost in perfect detail, even after your body decays. That is not remembrance. That is captivity disguised as immortality. You once believed that being forgotten was the greatest tragedy. But tell me, in a world that never forgets, where every mistake and every smile is preserved forever, isn't being remembered the real curse? You post because you want to be seen, but now visibility has become the new throne room, one where judgment replaces truth and perception reigns as law. Welcome to the digital court. Here the rulers are not the wise or the skilled, but the visible. Reputation is no longer earned. It is manufactured, traded, and manipulated. You do not live in a democracy of thought anymore. You live in a monarchy of image, and the crowd, your audience, is the executioner. Every photo you share becomes a piece of evidence in a trial you didn't consent to. Every caption is a testimony. Every silence, a suspicion. You are always being tried, always being measured, always being compared. In this new court, power does not belong to those who speak the truth, but to those who master the illusion of virtue. The system rewards appearance over integrity, outrage over reason, beauty over depth. The crowd scrolls like a jury searching for guilt. They do not need to understand you, they only need to feel something about you. Admiration, envy, disgust, curiosity. Emotion is the currency, and you pay with your dignity to stay relevant. The ones who win here are not those who live well, but those who perform well. You have become a contestant in a theater of perception, and the more you reveal, the more they demand. The algorithm does not feed the honest, it feeds the dramatic. Every empire has its arena, and this one has built it from profiles, posts, and stories. You step into it daily, offering yourself for judgment. You call it sharing, but it is gladiatorial. You fight for attention, for validation, for survival in the endless scroll. The crowd cheers one moment and turns the next. You cannot rest, because visibility fades faster than virtue. You must feed the crowd to stay alive in their memory. They do not remember those who stop performing. They bury them in silence. The digital court worships novelty, and novelty demands sacrifice. Today, it may be your image. Tomorrow, it may be your peace. You tell yourself you can stay above it, that you post for yourself, not for others. But look at how carefully you craft your words, how long you linger before pressing upload. That hesitation is not self-expression, it's submission. You've learned to predict the court's reaction. You've learned to censor your truth, to soften your opinions, to dramatize your life just enough to be adored, not hated. You've become your own propagandist. You no longer speak to share, you speak to survive. This is what the court does. It turns sincerity into strategy. It teaches you that to be loved, you must perform the illusion of transparency while never actually revealing who you are. The tragedy is that the jury never sleeps. You can delete a post, but you cannot erase its shadow. Screenshots, archives, impressions, they live on, whispered through feeds like rumor through a village. In the old world, reputation could be rebuilt. In this one, it is eternal. One mistake becomes a monument. One misunderstood moment becomes your defining identity. The court never forgives because outrage is profitable. They do not want your redemption, they want your spectacle. The same crowd that crowns you will crucify you if it means they can feel righteous again. They will post your downfall as entertainment and call it justice. You think this is just the price of being online, but it is deeper than that. The digital court has rewritten the laws of power itself. Once, control belonged to those who acted. Now, it belongs to those who influence. Perception has become more powerful than truth. You can build an empire of illusion and rule over millions who mistake your image for your essence. But the moment the illusion cracks, you are exiled. They do not kill you, they forget you. That is the new execution, digital erasure. No noise, no rebellion, just silence. You fade from their feeds, and to them, you no longer exist. The court has no graves, only deletions. The most dangerous truth is that you no longer need enemies. The crowd does the work for them. They will police you, expose you, shame you, all while thinking they are protecting virtue. They have become soldiers of perception, and you their favorite target. The court thrives on fear. It needs you anxious, cautious, careful, because fear keeps you predictable. Fear keeps you obedient, and the obedient will never threaten the order of things. That's the genius of the system. It doesn't need to punish you itself. It has trained you to punish yourself. You hesitate, you filter, you conform, all to avoid the invisible judgment of strangers. In this world, to be misunderstood is to be destroyed, so you speak less, you share less, you shrink into what is safe, acceptable, likable. You mistake invisibility for peace, but even silence can be twisted. They will assign meaning to your absence, turn your restraint into arrogance, your quiet into guilt. You cannot win, because winning requires surrendering something that should never have been theirs, your sense of self. The court owns your reputation, your narrative, your reflection. And every time you step back into its light, it reminds you that your survival depends on its approval. So tell me, when truth no longer matters, when only perception decides who rises and who falls, do you still believe that being seen makes you free? You once believed that exposure was harmless, that showing the world who you are would make you stronger, more connected, more alive. But now, look closely. What happens to the one who reveals everything? What happens when mystery dies? When nothing about you is left unknown, what power remains? We live in the collapse of mystery. Every era before ours understood that secrecy was sacred. Kings hid their intentions behind silence. Generals masked their strategies in deception. Lovers preserved their bond by keeping the world outside their intimacy. But you have given it all away. You post your thoughts, your habits, your face, your pain, your joy. You leave nothing unsaid, nothing unseen. You think this makes you authentic, but authenticity without restraint is exposure without protection. You have mistaken transparency for trust, and in doing so, you have stripped yourself bare before a world that does not love you, only studies you. Mystery was once your defense. It made others uncertain, It made them curious. It made them cautious. People feared what they could not fully know, and that fear gave you leverage. The unseen man controlled the room because the visible one was predictable, but the world taught you to fear invisibility. It told you that silence means irrelevance, that privacy means failure, that restraint means weakness. So you became visible in every sense, emotional, psychological, spiritual. You gave them your map, your blueprint, your soul. You gave them the ability to read you like an open book, forgetting that open books are easily rewritten. When mystery dies, manipulation thrives. The crowd no longer respects you, it consumes you. People no longer imagine your depth, they scroll through it. The more they know, the less they value. The more you reveal, the less you are believed. Familiarity breeds contempt, and you have made yourself too familiar. You cannot command reverence when everyone has seen your backstage. You cannot inspire awe when your every move is explained, dissected, and trivialized. To show everything is to destroy the aura that makes influence possible. The powerful have always hidden, not out of fear, but out of understanding, because what is unseen cannot be attacked. What is unknown cannot be replaced. And yet, this age celebrates confession as virtue. They call it relatability. They tell you to share your struggles, your failures, your vulnerabilities, as if weakness on display could make you strong. But weakness without control is spectacle, not strength. Every tear you post, every insecurity you confess, becomes a tool for manipulation. They will pity you first, praise you next, and then forget you when your pain no longer entertains. They do not seek your truth, they seek your transparency. Because transparency is easy to manage. Mystery demands respect, but exposure demands attention, and attention is fleeting. The collapse of mystery has not made us closer, it has made us shallow. You know the faces of thousands, but the souls of none. You have followers instead of friends, visibility instead of intimacy. You exchange real understanding for quick familiarity, sacred bonds for digital proximity. And in this bargain, you lose the one thing that gives love and power their worth, rarity. What is rare is desired. What is seen by all is owned by none. You've given away your rarity, your depth, your silence, and for what? A few seconds of applause from people who will not remember your name tomorrow. There was a time when the most dangerous man in the room was the one no one could read. His silence commanded attention, his distance created desire, his restraint generated respect. Now, the loudest man dominates, but only for a moment. The visible rise quickly and vanish even faster. The mysterious rise slowly but endure forever. You've chosen the wrong side of time. The more you try to be seen, the faster you fade. The less you show, the longer they wonder. And wonder is the seed of power. You fear obscurity, but you should fear exposure. Obscurity can be broken with one act of greatness. Exposure cannot be undone. You can always emerge from the shadows, but you can never return to them once you've stepped into the light. The wise retreat, not because they are weak, but because they understand that visibility is vulnerability. Mystery is not a mask, it is armor. Every hidden thought, every unshared emotion, every silent glance builds a fortress around your soul. But you have torn down your walls and called it honesty. You have opened your gates and called it confidence. You've made yourself accessible to the very forces that profit from your predictability. You think the world rewards openness. It doesn't. It rewards restraint disguised as revelation. The ones who appear transparent are often the ones who reveal the least. They show fragments, never the whole. They feed curiosity while guarding truth. They understand that to control perception, you must never expose the entirety of who you are. Mystery is not withholding. It is directing. It is shaping what others think they see. But you've given them everything. You've killed the tension, the intrigue, the silence that once gave your presence weight. So look at yourself now, visible, explainable, available. The world knows you. The world consumes you. But in the process of being known, have you not become ordinary? Tell me, when there is nothing left about you that can surprise anyone, what power do you still have? You've spent your life trying to be seen, but now you understand the curse of visibility. The more eyes that find you, the less control you have over how you are seen. The final illusion has shattered. You thought exposure was power, but exposure is servitude. You thought the crowd's gaze made you significant, but the gaze only made you fragile. Every photo, every post, every trace of your image was a quiet surrender of sovereignty. You gave away the throne of your own perception, and now others sit upon it, defining who you are, what you mean, what you deserve. You no longer own your reflection, you rent it from the world. This is the final warning. The age of mystery has ended, and with it, the age of power. Those who are seen are controlled. Those who remain unseen still command the board. The true masters of this world do not post, do not share, do not explain. They exist behind the curtain, orchestrating the illusions that the rest of the world mistakes for reality. You call them elites, corporations, algorithms, governments, but they are simply those who refuse to be observed. They learned the oldest rule of strategy. What is invisible cannot be targeted. You, on the other hand, broadcasted your coordinates to the enemy and called it self-expression. You tell yourself that hiding is cowardice, but tell me who is more free, the man who must perform every day to stay relevant, or the one who walks through the crowd unseen, untouched, and unbothered. You traded your freedom for recognition. You sold your privacy for applause. You built your own surveillance system and now kneel before it, waiting for it to approve your existence. You carry your cage in your pocket. It glows, it hums, it rewards you when you obey, and punishes you when you go silent, and still you cannot put it down. That is not communication, that is possession. There is no privacy left to lose, only illusions to dismantle. You think you can reclaim your image, delete your past, vanish from the archives, but it's too late. You've been recorded, replicated, analyzed, and sold too many times to count. You exist now in copies, 1,000 digital ghosts of yourself wandering through systems you'll never see. Each one of them learning, adapting, mimicking. They will outlive you. They will be used long after you are gone. Your likeness will be rented to machines that think, brands that persuade, institutions that predict. You will be everywhere, and yet nowhere. That is immortality in this era, eternal presence without power. You can already feel it, can't you? That quiet exhaustion every time you open your feed. That sense that something is watching, even when no one has liked your post yet. You don't know whose eyes are on you, and that is the point. The uncertainty is the control. The invisible gaze disciplines you better than any law ever could. You censor yourself without realizing. You perform politeness, caution, self-branding, not because you want to, but because you fear the consequences of being misinterpreted. This is how visibility becomes governance. You have no ruler because you have already become your own. And so the wise withdraw. They learn the art of vanishing. They master the silence that once terrified them. They stop explaining, stop posting, stop chasing relevance. And as the world forgets their face, they regain their power. They move through shadows, unseen but not idle. Their absence becomes influence. Their mystery becomes magnetism. They understand what Machiavelli taught, that fear, not admiration, guards power. And in a world where everyone exposes themselves, fear is born not from aggression, but from secrecy. The one who cannot be read, cannot be played. The one who cannot be reached, cannot be destroyed. The internet promised connection but delivered exposure. It promised freedom but delivered surveillance. You joined thinking you'd share your life, but what you shared was your control. You thought your photos captured your story, but they only captured your submission. And now the cycle is complete. Billions of faces, willingly uploaded, endlessly analyzed, feeding a machine that no longer needs to ask permission. You are not the user, you are the resource. And every post is another drop of blood in the endless economy of attention. Look around. The world has become a hall of mirrors, each reflection watching the other, each person terrified to look away. No one knows who's performing and who's observing anymore. It doesn't matter. The system doesn't need to know who you really are. It only needs to keep you visible, because visibility means predictability, and predictability means control. You think you still own your mind, but your thoughts are not yours anymore. They are the product of 1,000 unseen manipulations, ads, comments, algorithms, reactions. The system doesn't need to silence you. It only needs to distract you until you silence yourself. So I'll ask you one last time. If every image of you has already been copied, every thought predicted, every word stored, and every silence monitored, what part of you is still yours? If you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows this truth. Respect is not given, it's extracted through presence, silence, and control. The body never lies, and the one who masters stillness controls every room he enters. Now tell me in the comments, are you ready to command respect without words, to make others yield without force? Are you willing to become the man who never needs to prove anything, because his presence says it all? If this message touched you, if it made sense, write in the comments, "I move with power." Let's see how many here are truly ready to embody quiet dominance. And don't forget, keep watching the next video. It's important, much more than you imagine. See you there.